afternoon. Good 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 afternoon and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I'm your host today, Shantae Charles. I hope that you have been having a great and wonderful day. It is season 17, episode 32, and it is Teachable Tuesday, the Tuesday to be inspired. And we are reading from two books today. And then hopefully we're going to have a brief conversation. If our favorite administrator, Pastor Ben, shows up today, he'll be joining us in conversation if he's available. And so let's hop right into it. We're reading from two books today, Meditations for Black Women, although I continue to say this book is really for anybody because of the way and the messages that are in this book. They're super important, and I think everybody could stand to benefit from them. And then we're reading one inspiring person today. We'll be reading more all through the month of February for Black History Month. The book we're reading from is the Illustrated Black History, Honoring the Iconic and Unseen. And today's reading is going to be Mary Frances Hill Coley. Now, I learned about her recently, but I'm glad to see that she has made it to an actual textbook. So let's get into it. And I think this is a really good lesson for today. Leave spaces that don't serve you. Leave spaces that don't serve you. One more time. Leave spaces that don't serve you. There's nothing like being in a space that is serving everyone but you. Anybody ever been there? There's nothing like being invited into a space to serve everybody, but you get shortchanged. Anybody ever been there? Mhm. Nicole Hannah Jones says this: I don't want to force myself into an institution that doesn't seem to appreciate what I bring. Something to meditate on today. My presence is not required in spaces that actively reject me. Some of you have probably been following along with the recent story about a gentleman by the name of Paul Birdsong. Paul Birdsong was being mentored recently by one of the Black Panther Party members. He's been doing work, to my understanding, down in Philly. Well, it came to other Black Panther members' attention, the work that he was doing seemingly in their name. So he invited some people to come down, see what he was doing, check out his work. Those people came, they saw what he was doing, but then they said, you only really have a surface relationship with us, but you are acting as though our relationship is deeper than it really is. And with that being said, they decided to pull back. They decided to withdraw their support. They also asked him, in a not so kind way, to stop using the Black Panther Party's name. Paul agreed to do that, and he is now calling his group the Black Lion Party for International Solidarity. I believe that's the full name of it. What was the lesson that I learned in all of that? I know some people are still talking about it on my page. The lesson I learned in that is, if you are building your own work, if you are building your own space, if you are doing the work, if you are doing the knowledge, right? Then just do the work and do the knowledge. And let that work and let that knowledge begin to speak for you. Um, build your own thing. It's okay to build your own thing. And sometimes it's actually more beneficial to build your own thing because then no one can come behind you and say you are imitating their work, you are co opting their work. So, my lesson that I learned from all of that and watching it play out is work on your own reputation, build your own reputation. So, someone does not have the ability to come along and say, you are co opting my reputation to start your thing. Now, there are some people who enjoy mentoring people, who don't mind people leaning into their reputation to get a foundational start and then moving forward. And then there are other people like we saw this week that said, "Hey, this is our thing, this is our brand, this is our name. We don't necessarily agree with all the things that you're doing, so we don't want our name attached to your work." And the reality is people have the right to make that decision about their name, their image, their likeness, their work, their history. Now, I can disagree with how it was done or how they worded their statement that they put out publicly. But the reality is, people have the right to decide how they want their name, their image, their likeness, and their branding used. They have the right to that. And you have the right to know that your presence is not required in spaces that actively reject you. It is okay to build your own thing. It's okay to build your own table. It's okay to say, this is what I'm doing, and it may not look like anybody else's model, but this is the way that I want to do it. And so most of us are going to keep watching, we're going to keep observing. And as I told someone online today, if he is fraudulent, time will bear it out. And if he is about the business, time will bear it out, right? And I think sometimes we get so caught up on who's doing what, how they're doing it. Um, it almost feels, he was accused of being performative, but on the other side of that, um, we could say the elders of that can also be seen as being territorial. They can also be seen as being gatekeepers, right? Um, and here's the thing: revolution, liberation are things that really cannot be gate kept. If you understand what true revolution is, and if you understand what true liberation is, then you know that you can't really gatekeep it. You just can't. There's always going to be people who come along who have a difference of opinion, who have a difference of a perspective or point of view. There's going to be people who say, this is how we should do it. There's going to be people over here saying, no, this is how we should do it. When the reality is, revolution and liberation has streams, streams. And sometimes those streams come together and they connect at some points, right? Just like tributaries, if you're into waterways and all of that, sometimes the streams connect and converge in some places and they pour out together. And then sometimes they narrow back out and trickle off. So that's when I look at liberation work, when I look at revolutionary work, if you study them enough, you'll start to see that there were streams. Everybody wasn't doing it the same way. Um, And then where things intersect and things connected and people had coalitions, right? And they did some work together, but some of them kept their own organizations. That is what I see. So I'm not upset about the Black Panther Party's decision. I'm not upset about him saying, hey, I'm cool with that. And let me rename my organization. Let me rename what it is that I'm doing. I think that sometimes we make things a bigger deal than they have to be, um, in our response, in our reaction, because many people are saying, "See, that's what's wrong with Black people now." We so unorganized. We so disunified. Da, da, da." No, this is a simple clarifying of purpose and vision. And when someone says, we've met with you, we've talked with you, we've observed what you're doing, good, well wishing on what you're doing, but it's not quite the work that we established. And we want to make a distinct difference between the two. Now, would I have worded my statement the way they did? I wouldn't have, because the way that their statement is worded does not lend itself to people being open to seeking you out in the future. Now, that might be something they want to work on. But people are still gravitating to the original Black Panther Party, and people are free to join the Black Lion Party for International Solidarity. I say you can never have too many people fighting against tyranny. So if you're not against me, you're for me. That's what I count it as. If you're not against me, you're for me. And I don't have to look at any other group or any other organization and try to cast aspersions upon them if they are doing their stream, if they're in their stream and in their flow of what they're supposed to be doing when it comes to liberation. I think sometimes that can be an Achilles heel overall in the work of liberation, of trying to gatekeep and trying to tell people that you must do it this way in order for it to be quote unquote legitimate. I think that's where a lot of people's hang up is. So let's take a look at this reflection, because I'm speeding through. Never be afraid to leave environments that cause you stress and make you feel othered. Often, many of us desire to have a seat at the table because we are often excluded from spaces that provide greater opportunities for success. But you don't need a seat at the table, the writer says. As a matter of fact, you're allowed to walk past that table, pretend it never existed, and create your own. Now, I'm a big proponent of that. I got a whole page where I walked past what other people were doing and decided I'm going to create my own because I didn't see what I wanted to see in the digital space. I didn't fuss with people. I didn't argue with them. I didn't go into their organization and I didn't tell them how to do what they were doing. I just created my own. And the same thing can be said for what we saw happening this week. Create your own. In the work environment, Black women often experience being the pet to the threat. The corporate girlies know exactly what that is. Some were hired because of their skill and the diversity they brought to the workplace. Then you become exceptional at your job. Everybody loves you, or so you think. Then suddenly, colleagues begin to make life hard for you when you're doing a good job. Sometimes you're left off projects, or you're asked to take on a bigger workload with less pay, overly criticized, or highly surveilled. Someone at your job is waiting for you to mess up so they can have a reason to fire you. It's exhausting. Your job becomes your primary source of stress, and you have no choice but to leave for the sake of your health. It sucks. However, what is worse than staying at a place that no longer serves you? Peace and love. I've talked about my own personal incidences that I've had with workplace aggression, microaggression, racial microaggressions, working myself into a place of unhealthiness to the point where, as the writer is saying here, I had to leave for the sake of my health because my health was deteriorating to the point where I could not drive my own vehicle to get to the assignment. And that was back in 2015. And in that moment, when I realized I have literally worked myself into a position of unhealthiness, and I couldn't even drive my car to get to the space, I made up in my mind from that moment forward. I said, I will never do this again. I will never put myself in a position to where I have worked myself into injury. And when I resigned, you know how long it took them to replace me? 24 hours. 24 hours. And I said, I'm going to let this be a lesson to myself. You are replaceable. Don't think in the machinery, in the cog. I'm not talking about you as a person. You as a person are unique. But when it comes to the machinery and the cog wheel of the work environment, especially here in the United States, you are replaceable. You are. And don't forget that. And because of that, I said I had to make some changes with my health. I had to make some changes with how I saw work life in general. I had to make some changes in what I was willing to tolerate and what I was unwilling to tolerate anymore when it came to a work environment. So the writer closes by saying, take action. Are there any environments you frequent that are causing you stress and making you feel othered? Work on an exit strategy. Work on an exit strategy. All right, I want to go to my next person here, and then I'm going to open it up. Pastor Ben, I see you down there in the comment section. Mary Frances Hill Coley. Now, this artwork was made by the author of this book. They are also the illustrator of all of the drawings in here. Mary Frances Hill Coley lived from 1900 to 1966. Lamisha Steele, who nominated Mary Frances Hill Coley for Georgia Woman Achievement Award, said she was a step-in mom, and she did that for people that was not nice to her. That's hard. She was a highly sought-after midwife in Albany, Georgia, who from the mid-1930s until her retirement delivered hundreds of babies born to Black and white families. Coley had apprenticed under a midwife from Alabama, and she took her calling as a spiritual endeavor. Part of what made Coley so respected was her knowledge of the birthing process, as well as the multifaceted care she provided to both the birth mothers and the infants. She returned to her clients' homes in the days after the birth to bathe and dress both the baby and the mother, prepare the food, essentially keep the household operating while the mothers were in recovery. In the segregated South, she was a rare example of a care worker who would support any family through their process, even a white family that was not treating her well. Her work was especially important for Black families who were typically unwelcome in white-dominant hospitals, leaving home birth as the only, if not preferred, option. Coley's life was dedicated to bringing Black lives into existence. All around her, whether or not Black babies came into being was willy-nilly. But for Mary Frances Hill Coley, Black lives mattered. During her lifetime, nothing good was happening for Black people. Her work was a singular bright spot. I suspect she knew this in her bones. She was the survivor of a twin birth. She was raised by relatives after both of her parents had died. She raised 10 children after her husband had abandoned her. This was a woman who knew what a difference it could make to be well cared for and well loved from your very first breath. Her work was so respected that in 1953, the Georgia Department of Public Health produced a training film for midwives using Coley as an example. All My Babies, which followed her activities for several months. In the film, viewers see Coley walking into her clients' homes during all hours of the day or night, depending on the needs of the mother-to-be or new mom. Her manner is kind and warm. She is reassuring presence that brings smiles to the faces of the fatigued, sometimes uncertain women. Coley is shown explaining her hygiene practices, demonstrating how she comforts fussing babies, and sterilizing cloths in a pot in an open fireplace. The film was used as an instructional guide by the health department. The National Museum of African American History and Culture at the Smithsonian features clips of the film in its exhibit, recognizing the contributions of Black Americans in medicine. Mary Frances Hill Coley. She did not wait to be accepted. She did not wait to be liked. She did not wait to be certified. She built her own table. And because she built her own table, like I say all the time, if you build the table, the people who need your table will come sit at it. If you build the table, if you build the program, if you build the training, the people who need what you have will find you. But what happens when we don't build what we're supposed to build and the people who need us finally show up? Then a lot of us have to scramble and try to figure out, okay, how do I put this system together that's been up here all the time? So one of the things that I want to encourage us to do is, if you have an idea, if you have a plan, if you have a training, if you have a book, if it's just poetry, if it's art, if there's a series that's on your mind that you need to get out of yourself, I want to encourage you this year, if you've been putting it off, to get those things out of you. All right. I created a system to train teachers. I've been using it for years. Now that system is being used to train teachers on a statewide platform. But what if I didn't have it? What if I wasn't working on it? What if I just said, I know what teachers need, but I'll let somebody else do it? What if that somebody else doesn't show up? So that's something that I want us to think about today as we shift into conversation. I am going to send you the link and hopefully you will get it, Pastor Ben. Let's try to do it right now. All right, I have sent you the link. Hopefully you will get a chance to um, connect and we will add you. All right, down by Texas law asks the question, liberated from what? It's a good question. Liberation can come in all forms. What the question is, what do you need to be liberated from? Some of us need to be liberated from bad theology. Some of us need to be liberated from bad ideology. I needed to be liberated from working in spaces that did not value and appreciate me. All right, good afternoon. Thank you for tuning in and joining me. We've got about 10 minutes. So I'm going to let you talk and I'm going to try not to interrupt.
Okay, I'm gonna speak on two things. The situation with the Black Panther Party. I'm with you all the way there. And I also believe that whole situation could have been handled differently
Yes.
because the way they handled it, the original Black Panther Party,
Mm-hmm.
they left it to where it appears to it was there was a rift.
Mm-hmm.
See, when there shouldn't have been.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna go back to Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Mm-hmm.
That's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
They were on two different ends of the spectrum,
Yes.
but they found common ground,
Mm-hmm.
and they were coming together
Mm-hmm.
before Malcolm X was assassinated.
Yes. And I saw an interview recently from Andrew Young, who was in King's Camp, who has finally admitted that Malcolm and Martin met more times
Hmm.
than people actually knew about. Because most people, I think, only saw the image of them meeting publicly that one time. But Andrew Young admitted, oh no, they met more than that. And they met behind closed doors. And Malcolm said, it is more advantageous for me to continue my path and take the heat off of you by offering a more radicalized version of what liberation looks like so that your mission would be more successful. I think that is absolutely powerful.
Yeah.
And I wish more people understood that. But it also brings me back to one time a couple of years ago when I was in prayer and the Spirit said to me, He said, there is an unfinished work. And He said, Malcolm, Martin, Medgar, and Marcus, the four M's.
Mm-hmm.
Now, somebody actually did a book on Malcolm, Medgar, and Martin. I think it was Joy Reid. I said, but she left out a M because I was getting excited. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
ooh, somebody already did it. Somebody already did it. And then I said, oh, Lord. She left out an M. She left out an M. But yeah, so the Spirit told me that their work is incomplete and it must continue.
Mm-hmm.
So there are people, I believe there are people that are doing aspects of the continuance of those works, right? They might not be doing everything, but they are doing aspects of the work. So when
Mm-hmm.
I hear people, like there was people on my post, I'm sure you've been reading through some of the comments saying, well, who's going to lead us? Where's the leader? I'm like, if you have studied the movement and learned the lessons of the movement, you should know that we are the leaders.
Mm-hmm.
We are the ones we have been looking for. That's it. And when you recognize, oh, I am supposed to be leading myself, and in my stream of leading, there will be people that follow me as
Mm-hmm.
I am leading myself. Because you first got to internalize a message of freedom before you can lead one. Okay.
Yeah.
So as I am leading myself in my path of liberation and freedom, right? Other people who see what I'm doing and resonate with what I'm doing will follow my path. And the other part I said is, you know, it has already been said you can kill a person, but you cannot kill a movement. And I want to take it one further and say you can kill a person, but you can't kill a movement that's embodied by the people.
Right.
And so my thing is a lot of people are doing a lot of talking, which is great, right? We do talking here, but going deeper than the talking, think about, are you embodying the principles? Are you living the principles out in your everyday life? And as you said, with the incident that happened with these two, they said that they went and saw him and observed him doing the principles. So now people are like, okay, you're saying that he was doing the work, but you felt he was a little bit cocky in doing the work. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, if he's under 30, aren't most people, young people, cocky when they're doing work?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Yes.
that's not an abnormal thing. And so, it leaves room for people to wonder what actually was the problem. What actually was the problem? If he was vetted and he had some sort of criminal history or something like that, okay, make that known. We chose not to want him a part of this because of these criminal activities. But then again, people are going to say, but y'all was labeled criminals.
Mm-hmm.
And some of you all are still in prison,
Mm-hmm.
right? So then again, the question is going to be, what is this really about? Is this really about values, or is this about you feeling like this person is more popular as a singular person than the movement warrants?
One thing I teach, those that I do teach, is that I want them to surpass where I am.
Mm-hmm.
See, don't just stop where I stop. Go past me. Do that right now. Don't wait for me to end. See, my thing is to help you get to a certain point and let you go do that thing. Build on it. Take it somewhere else. See, so that's why it's hard for me to understand this situation.
And I'm gonna
The
say
Black Panther Party took it to one level.
Mhm.
Let these younger people take it to a whole nother one. Because the quote unquote adversaries, they've taken it to a whole nother level.
They have in several instances, and I want to say if you if you look at an organization, for example, like TPUSA, okay, prime example, they bankrolled a young college dropout. They bankrolled him, made sure he had the tools that he needed, put him on college campuses to build chapters. Now they're allowing him to do high school chapters for recruitment to pseudo supremacy. Okay, those people realize we're too old to do this, but we got the money.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to back this person to do this. Okay, that person gets assassinated. Do they let the organization die?
Mm-mm.
They absolutely did not. They handed it right over to his wife, and they're continuing the college chapters, and they're continuing the high school chapters. They're not arguing with her, or if they are, they doing it behind closed doors,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not on a public platform. And the person who was arguing with her, what did they do? She said, "Let's meet. Let's take this offline. Let's not do any live streams. Let's meet privately and hash this out." They did that, and she has come back out. I don't want to name the two women. She has come back out and said a couple more things, but you don't see all of that going back and forth about that woman.
Mm-hmm.
So we can all there's to me there's always lessons to be learned about how we're handling these things. There's always a lesson to be learned. One thing I know for certain and two things for sure, young people who are coming after us, and I say young people because I am not a spring chicken. I'm not a senior citizen, but I'm not a spring chicken, okay? Young people coming after us are watching these responses to them trying to get involved. As one person said on my post, for a whole week we had people saying, what are we going to do? Why isn't anybody doing anything? Why isn't anybody out there? Who's going to stand up for the people? And then he shows up and stands up for the people, and now y'all are saying not that way. So
Mm-hmm.
people are looking at they're looking at you're kind of being a little wishy washy with how you want this done, right?
Here's my thing with that. This administration is extreme,
It is.
very extreme. They need to be met with extreme measures. 2A is for exactly what's going on right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they're operating under
Mm-hmm.
the constitutional rights. But we don't want them to? I mean, make it make sense.
Now, see, I don't think that that was the clash. I don't think that they had an issue with him using 2A. I think the issue was more so, um, what did they write? It wasn't about 2A. It was about him bringing more people into the organization than black people. Because with the Panthers, right, they worked alongside other people who had their own coalitions and were building their own coalitions.
Mm-hmm.
And so their thing is Black Panthers is for black people. although we work with other coalitions.
Mm-hmm.
His goal was, I want to bring everybody in. And so I think that that's where they clashed.
Now,
And
now
like I
I can.
said, and like I said, that's you can't I can't argue with that part,
Right,
you know. But it's
right.
the way that they responded to him at the end that was like, that's a step too far. When you when you
You know
write
what?
things
I.
when you write things publicly and say keep our names out your mouth, that's
Mm-hmm.
not a cordial going your separate ways. I
Mm-mm.
think that was too much.
Now I agree with that. Matter of fact, it's like Malcolm. When white people wanted to know what they could do to help, he said nothing. You can't join us.
Mm-hmm.
See, so I understand that. Number one, can you trust them? You got enough issues trying to trust your own people.
Right now, the word is no.
Right. The word is no. So, so I understand that. And I also understand working with other coalitions
Mm-hmm.
because the Black Panthers were a part of the Rainbow Coalition, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
And the Coalition was different organizations, different coalitions coming together
Mm-hmm.
for the same purpose.
Yep.
See, now each coalition had to deal with their own people,
Right.
find out, okay, who's for real
Mm-hmm.
and who might be a plant.
Mm-hmm.
See, they had to deal with those things themselves,
Yep.
but they all were trying to come together for again, here we go, a common goal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
See,
And
so
so
I understand
that's
that.
why I said I could see it from both sides. I don't
Mm-hmm,
think that they were saying no, don't go out and have armed resistance or show your
mm-hmm,
arms. It was more so Black Panther Party is for black people. There are
mm-hmm,
other coalitions that other people can join, but what you have going on, you want everybody joining you, and that is not what Black Panther Party is. And so in that case, I'm like, it should be fine for you all to come to that conclusion and him go his
mm-hmm,
separate way. Like he said, Black Lion Party for international solidarity. To me, that makes sense for him to have his own brand because that is his own brand. And
mm-hmm,
I feel like that's what should have happened to begin with. But because he was initially mentored by a Black Panther, he kind of stepped in it to, I want to continue this legacy, right? But when further vetting occurred, they realized, no, this is not a continuation. This is something different from what we have done. And I think that should have been made clear and not the tone that was released in their social media post of keep our names out of your mouth and don't use it ever again. Like all of that
right.
didn't need to be on a public statement.
Because when they did that, from this is my perspective, they basically blocked an extension of the common good.
Right.
See, because you could have worked with them
Mm-hmm.
and let them do their thing, you do your thing,
Mm-hmm.
but you both work together for the common goal. But when they did that, it was like, for me now, this is how I see it. You put a separation there, not just a slight separation, but a disconnection.
Yeah.
See,
And
and who
that's
is
why I
that
said
good
I
for?
feel like that's why I said I feel like they are alienating themselves from
Mm-hmm.
anyone who would have connected with them in the future. Because if this is how you handle someone who has the desire to do the work,
Mm-hmm.
if this is how you handle them, people are going to be wary of coming your direction in the future. They're just going to start their own thing
Mm-hmm.
because you've just shown them y'all are not really interested in extending a legacy beyond yourselves. And that's what I saw.
Mm-hmm.
And again, this doesn't just happen in black community. Some people want their legacy to die with them.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be the last one, and it's gone and it becomes a part of history. I sort of see that in what was written, and maybe that wasn't the intention, but that's how it came off. All right.
Mm-hmm.
We are getting ready to wrap up because I have a client in 5 minutes. So catch this on the replay. This will be up tomorrow. It will process and come through. This has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I've been your host today, Shantae Charles. I want to thank you for your time and your attention. Remember, light is the most daring opposition to evil. So go out and be what, Pastor Ben?
Light.
Light. Take care, everyone. Be well, and most importantly, be light. We'll be back here tomorrow, same time, 12 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.